Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers CBO.
Alrighty, welcome to our first Knowledge Forum with the Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers. I am so excited to have each and every one of you here. My name is Uchenaya Ogba. I am with the Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers team, and I handle primarily communications for the organization. So you probably will see an email from me at some point, or you probably already have. I am so excited to have y'all today, y'all. It's going to be a packed house. But that is just one of many things. But first things first. For each one of our knowledge forums, we like to start off with a survey. And it's kind of like an icebreaker kind of thing, just to kind of like learn more about all our attendees and who's here. So you're going to see a poll pop up. It's going to be 3 awesome questions. And we usually give about 2 minutes for everyone to respond and answer. So take your time, look at it. First question is, where are you joining us from? It's a short answer. So just put your area, you can put the state, the city, doesn't matter. What do you produce or hope to produce on your farm/ranch? At Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers, we always encourage everyone to produce or grow some sort of crop, even if it's like a small crop in your kitchen or your backyard or your 50 plus or 1,000 acre ranch or farm. It doesn't matter. Share with us what you produce. And the third question, what type of livestock do you raise or hope to raise on your farm or ranch? We also believe in regenerative agriculture here. And having livestock as part of your regenerative practice is such a beautiful thing. So that's also another opportunity where we like to just share what it is. And if there's nothing, that's okay. If you're into produce only, that's fine. If you're into ranching only, that's fine as well. We would just like to learn more about who you are. So I see 9% people already. I see more people joining. Oh, that's awesome. Feel free to answer the questions. Only one person's answered, y'all. I always give 2 minutes. We'll go with whoever is answered. But I would love to learn from everyone. I think it's so important for participation to occur at our knowledge forums. You already see our amazing speaker here. Oh, I'm going to introduce Mr. P.W. Ross in a second. I also know we have Arlena, also another one of our hosts, should be joining us. Yes, there she is. Arlena is here. So yes, we have 20 more seconds. I would love for you all to respond. If you're new to our knowledge forums, we always start off this way so that we can learn more about who you are. And I'll also be answering. So I'm in San Antonio, Texas. And I currently produce, I have a small garden in my backyard. I got some herbs. Yes, y'all, I started planting, of course, with the winter storm. So it's all like little seedlings. But I have some herbs I'm planting as well. I'm looking to also put some garlic in the soil and some onions. Beyonce hates onions, but I'm going to sneak it in and see how she likes it. In terms of crops, I have no crops, but I'm taking my P's and Q's from Arlena, who is our small livestock. Sorry, instead of livestock, I have none, but Arlena has some small livestock, and I'm trying to learn from her as well to see how I can incorporate some little chickens and some rabbits and everything else into it. All right, we have 8 people have answered. I'm going to end the poll now and go through the answers. Now let's see what y'all talking about. Let me see this. All right. Okay, we got answers. We have a guest from Farmers Branch, Texas. Welcome. We have another guest from Detroit, Michigan. Okay, what up, though? Okay. All right, what up, though? Welcome. We have another guest from Garland, Texas. Welcome. We got a guest from Round Rock, Texas. All right. We have another guest from Texas. Okay. And another guest from Dallas, Texas. Okay. I see Texas is well represented in the house. Texas is well represented. We have a guest from Zambia, all the way from Zambia. I'm Nigerian, so to my African family. I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here. We are honored. We are honored. And we have another guest from Dallas, Texas. Okay, Dallas, love this. Thank y'all so much for being here. Second question: what do you produce or hope to produce on your farm/ranch? Well, one of our guests said everything. I agree. I agree. That's the whole point. Regenerative agriculture allows for you to produce a variety of crops, and of course, through crop rotation, you can align them based upon how much land or how much land you want to utilize. So, yes, I agree. One of our guests is currently producing flax fiber, a variety of herbs, tomatoes, peas, beans, and salad greens. I love a good salad green, y'all. I love that. Leafy greens are amazing. Another guest said hay and vegetables. Yes, hay is a vital part of producing, and of course, you can sell that and make profit from that. We're all about providing economic wealth to black and brown farmers and ranchers, and all farmers and ranchers. But hay is a vital way of going through that. Another guest said vegetables in our garden. We love that. We love that. Another guest said corn. All right, I got some frozen corn that I'm about to cook right now in a second after this. Another guest said vegetables and fruits. Yes. Another guest says just veggies for consumption at home. Yes. Good food at home is so pivotal to healthy families. Another guest said cattle, lettuce, trees, soft and hardwood, and herbs. Okay. Our guest is doing everything and they want to make sure we're aware. And that's who I want to be when I grow up. Like Phil and like Arlena, I want to have everything from plants all the way to animals. And the last, but definitely not the least, we had what type of livestock do you raise or hope to raise on your farm/ranch? One guest said chickens, sheep, goats, rabbits, cows, horses, pigs. I am jealous. I am jealous. I love that. Yes. Another guest said, I have raised chickens, turkeys, and goats. Yes. Another guest said, horses. Ooh, okay, okay. I like our group today. Everyone's versatile. Another guest said, no livestock, and that's perfectly fine. Me and you. No livestock here, but we are still part of this. We're still here to learn. Another guest said, not applicable. Yes, I agree. Same here. Another guest says, chicken and rabbits. Yes, I'm trying to be just like that too. One guest said, chickens. And another guest said, longhorn cattle and beef cattle. Yes. Thank y'all so much for sharing. Thank y'all so much for participating in our Q&A. Now, I would love for our amazing panelists to introduce themselves. I saw Uriah pop in. Uriah is currently driving, so when he pops in again, I'll let him jump on. But Arlena, can you introduce yourself?
Well, hi, I'm Orlana Brumfield, and I'm the owner of Solutions Holistic Urban Farm, and I am everything urban farm. I'm a city girl, and I'm out here growing and enhancing the soil in Dallas. And
Awesome.
welcome, guys.
Thank you, Arlena. Thank you, thank you. And we got Uriah on the road. Stay safe now, Uriah. We don't want you driving and zooming at the same time, but I see your parts. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Uriah Israel, proud son of a sharecropper from Ooltewah, Tennessee, author, father, and grower in the Central Texas. And I just love this format and looking forward to teaching the Let's Grow class. And that's all I got to say, dear Uche. Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So if y'all don't know, we're going to share more about the Let's Grow Gardening course, but Uriah is an amazing educator. Like, he is an amazing educator. And we actually have, we're going to share more about what he's going to be sharing with us at the end of our session today, our Knowledge Forum. But I am so excited because, everyone here is an expert in their own field, whether it's food safety, whether it's gardening, whether it's soil. But where does good food and everything come from or start from? It's the soil. And who else do we have that can best share this knowledge and educate us? Well, I'm excited to introduce y'all. Some of y'all met him. Some of y'all seen his face. You get his emails all the time. Mr. P. Wade Ross. He is the executive director of Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers, as you can see him right there. Has a signature hat. I told him we got to go hat shopping sometime because I got locks. So, you know, is a little harder for me, but I say I can do like a Cam Newton kind of thing, put a hole in it and make it look cool like the young guys. I don't know. I don't want to mess up a very expensive hat, but he said
Oh
no.
no,
He
no,
said
we
don't
got you, man. We got you. All you gotta do is say a word. It's crazy. I, people don't even know me now until I put on that hat. So
I
I keep it
know,
on.
I know. Well, Mr. P. Rod, he's an amazing soil expert and an executive director, spearheading and leading the Texas Farmers and Ranchers CEO organization, which was founded over 25 years ago. And one of the, oh, sorry, that's my little talker over here. And he is an amazing gentleman, to say the least. But I am so excited for today's presentation because, as any beginning farmer, as any regenerative farmer, we always want to learn. And that's something that he specializes in. So, Phil, I'm going
All
to pass
right.
it over
Well,
to you.
I'll take it
Thank
from
you.
there. I do have to say I always cringe when I'm introduced as an expert because I'm just learning. I'm learning, as we all are. That's what farmers do. We learn, we implement, we assess, debrief, and rinse and repeat. And that's pretty much some of the things based off of that is what I'll be sharing tonight. So let me see y'all. Bear with me when it comes to technology. Ain't really my thing, but I'm gonna try to see if I can share this screen without screwing something up here. Hold on a sec. All right. So far, so good. I'm hoping you can see my screen. All right, we're good to go. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to try to keep this about 35 to 40 minutes of presentation. And then, is Mama Papa Ross calling me now? Uh, the presentation about 45 minutes. Then we'll do a Q&A. And for those of you, of course, if you're here, that means you're registered. So, Uche, they will get a recording of this afterwards, correct? Okay. All right. So let's get rolling here. I first want to start things off with we're talking about why this topic. And the reason why we're this topic, number one, is the start of a new year. And we've been getting a lot of new farmers who are looking to, if they haven't already got started, are looking to get started in the next year or two. So this is perfect. This is a perfect time to really reach out and have this discussion. Also, we're getting a lot from experienced farmers who, they see the landscape, they see what's going on in our food systems and in farming in general, and some of the initiatives that are involved with it, and looking to make that pivot. But they want to know, hey, what are some of the cheat notes? What are some of the key things that you know P-Way, you and your team, or some of the folks, some of the farmers that out there wish they knew on day one. So that's really what this is about. I do have to give a warning. We have to do it in our foundational trainings and workshops as well, is that you're going to hear, some of you are going to hear some things that go totally against everything and I want you to allow that to be okay. That's okay. This is different. We're going back to the way our forefathers and some of the principles and frameworks that they used before, the time of go big or go home in agriculture. So please stay tuned. Again, there may be some things you hear that are just way new to you, and do not let that discourage you. So anyway, let's jump in. I do want to share a little bit about my family, my personal journey. I guess as a speaker, that's probably important to do. We farm. We've got a 120 acre farm that we farm on. You can kind of see the background there with my brother and my dad in the middle. We've been farming that since the the late 80s, early 90s, but it's been in my family since the late 1800s. So anyway, my dad actually was born on that land. It lay dormant for about 50, 60 years, came back to it after his took early retirement, came back to it. And of course, we followed to the farm. We quickly learned that my dad's dream was to be a cattleman. So we went out and bought some of the most expensive cattle, but we really didn't know what we were doing. And we probably broke every rule in the book of becoming a cattleman. Anyway, long story short, we learned that you first must become a master of growing grass and pasture to really be sustainable as a cattleman. So later on, as things went, we learned that to really be a sustainable grass farmer as well and a pasture farmer, you need to master the soil. So at this point, this wasn't a real easy thing for us because most farmers, even if you go to different agencies around Texas, most farmers and most trainings and workshops concentrate on what's going on above the ground. When it comes to the soil, a lot of people pose as experts, but guess what? When it comes to it, they're still learning too, so we're all learning together. And some of the principles when it comes to regenerative agriculture, which focuses on soil first and foremost, are some things that a lot of people just weren't taught, and it's hard it's become a stronghold amongst many farmers, especially those who've gone big. And it's hard to hear sometimes that there's a different way to do things, and that many of us feel that that's better. That's hard to hear when you've invested so much time and energy into doing it a certain way. So we had those same conflicts within our family and on our family farm. And I'm that guy who just, this is not bragging. I just love to learn. I'm always curious. So almost to a fault, I love to learn. So what I did is I went out and I found the top people in the industry. And I was willing to pay for it. So, hey, if we're going to get re-educated, let's do this thing the right way. We did in a couple of different lanes with a couple of organizations, one being the Soil Food Web, led by the recently retired Miss Ingram, Dr. Ingram, Elaine Ingram, I almost forgot her first name. And her and her staff have personally mentored me. Also was able, and that was such a blessing, but also was able to, tap into and meet Holistic Management International, which some of you know is HMI. And while Elaine Ingham trained me as a soil consultant and as a lab consultant, you probably can see my little microscope here, which allows me to test soil biology. I understood that probably not every farmer wants to do that. Not everybody wants to nerd out on soil. So Holistic Management International has really helped take some of the things I learned and really package it in a way that some of the farmers I work with, farmers don't like to sit, most of them don't like to be sitting in classrooms learning stuff. They want to be out on the farm. So that's what some of the things that we're presenting for you tonight. Okay, so that's our journey. As far as our farm, nowadays my dad is up in age. My brother's still out there. He loves growing vegetables. I'm kind of more the soil plus livestock guy. So because I've been traveling more often than not back in the day, that we've turned it into a teaching farm where we can take some of the things that we learned and share that with farmers in real time. Also, if there's things that we don't know, which we don't, we're still learning as we go, we're able to tap into some of the expertise of some of the top regenerative agriculture farmers in the world right now. So that's a good thing. And I did want to share, like I said before, wanted to share some of this with you because this is the right time to do it. So some of the things that we're going to cover today include why regenerative ag? Why is it such important, and what are some of the benefits of it? We'll talk about some of the myths and misconceptions that are common that we see that are common today. We're going to share 4 key regenerative insights that most of us, most farmers, almost every farmer should know, in my opinion. And we'll talk about some of the common mistakes and missteps that many of us make, especially when we're looking to start out as a farmer, especially regenerative ag farmer, or we're looking to maybe pivot into, maybe we're experienced farmer, but we're looking to pivot into regenerative ag. So what are some of those common missteps that you want to be aware of? And then we'll finish things off by sharing some things you can do and what you can expect when you start your journey. And then we'll finish things up, Q&A. So I guess I'm probably already behind on, on my timeline. What time is it here? So I'll jump in, yeah, because I'm already probably about 10 minutes late. So 10 minutes behind. So let's get going. So why regenerative ag? And I'm going to go through some of these bullet points pretty quickly. But first off, if you take care of your soil, anybody know the answer to that, the end of that statement? It is your soil will take care of you. Okay. So really when you're switching to regenerative agriculture, really what you're looking to do is turn your soil into a plant factory, not something that you have to mine over and over again to get it to do what you want, but to build your soil to a point where it takes care of you, where the plant is going to basically get what it needs, search what it needs and gets back to doing what it does. A lot of us think that we have to conquer the land. We don't. We just have to get the land in the right condition, and then it will take care of us. So that's really the goal. Another thing, benefit for under regenerative ag is increased yield at less cost and really cutting down on the dependency of outside resources. And so going to share that with you. And we'll try to share some studies of research and things like that, along with what we see with our own eyes, based on some of the trials that we've been doing right on our farm and in our local gardens around Texas. All right. Another thing is, I don't know if it's, I got that wrong. I got my bullet points out of order, but that's okay, is soil sponge, improving water retention. And what I think it was Utah State University did a study, and what they found, and it's also been repeated throughout the nation, is that typically a farmer that has a small garden, let's say 5,000 square feet, they improve their soil quality by just 1%. They can save themselves 2,000 to 2,500 gallons of rainwater, of water that they would otherwise have to use as irrigation. That's just 1%, y'all. And let's bump that up to an acre for some of us larger farmers, larger space farmers. 1 acre saves 17 to 25,000 gallons on just 1% of improvement of your soil. So very important. Do you think, it's probably a good idea to really understand how to build your soil? Well, based on those numbers and some of the savings and costs and some of the things that we're hearing in the news around Texas about water shortage, it makes all the sense in the world to learn some of the principles of regenerative ag. I'm going to hope my next, it's not there, probably it's going to come up last. But I'm hoping my next bullet point comes up here, but also food is medicine. And what this really means, I know Uriah and I do a lot of trainings around Texas, but food is medicine and money. And what that really means is that there's such a high demand right now. I know some of us farming nerds are seeing it come up in our news feeds all the time for fresh, nutrient-dense local food, okay? Food that is grown locally right there, close to our communities versus, some of the stuff that's happened in the past, which is food being grown maybe thousands of miles away and being shipped, sitting on in a warehouse. And by the time it gets to our plates, it's not really food anymore. So that's another key reason for regenerative agriculture is giving small farmers the opportunity to grow fresh, nutrient-dense food and giving that opportunity because we're talking about higher yield at less cost, getting our farmers, our small farmers back into the game. Let me see if I had that other bullet point here. No, I didn't see it. Let me go back. There was one other thing that I wanted to cover, and it was plant health on this bullet point here. Somehow I took it off of there in my editing. But plant health, there's a myth out there that if you do regenerative agriculture, that there's no way to conquer disease. And the truth is that pests and disease attack plants that are unhealthy. Period. Anytime you see aphids or anything, they go to that unhealthy plant first. So that's a sign that we need to improve our soil because the healthier the soil, the healthier the plant, the less pressure, pest and disease pressure you have. They can tell you something different. Typically, that's somebody trying to sell you something, or they just don't know. But that was a report and research that actually came out of University of Florida, and so when a couple of people did some research on that. So, take that feather as well, put that in the cap. But these are some of the things that make regenerative agriculture essential to learn and know. All right. So let's hit on some of these misconceptions that are common. I think I hit on the first one that you're going to see, which is pests and disease. Okay. Some of the myths, again, are that pests and disease, there's no way if you go with regenerative agriculture and all of a sudden you don't have certain chemicals that you're spraying, especially in summertime when it gets hot, that there's no way to offset that. Not true at all. So another thing is production capacity. So there's a myth out there that, hey, we have to have chemicals because we can't mass produce, we can't feed the world unless we are using some of these synthetic fertilizers that are growing things for mass production. So that may be true if we're not willing to learn new things. So if we're not willing to learn some of the principles and frameworks of producing our food through regenerative agriculture, absolutely, the production capacity is not going to be there. But imagine all the farmers, whether urban, whether they're rural, who are on the sideline right now, not participating in commercial farming, now having the ability to do so because they have studied, they have put into practice some of the things that we're talking about tonight. Now they are part of that food system as well, right there locally. It doesn't have to get shipped across the nation or sit on warehouses. People are eating, our children are eating, our families are eating fresh, nutrient-dense food. Okay, so the capacity is there. The question is, are we as farmers willing to learn, and are we willing to teach our community as well and teach them what we know? So 5-10 years from now, we can double, triple the amount of farmers who are growing healthy food, real food versus what's going on right now. Okay. Weed control. We joke about this all the time, but the saying is don't want what you don't want. And a lot of times we have the wrong view of weeds. A lot of times what we think is a bad thing because it's not what we want, and because we're focused on what we don't want, is actually the thing that's helping our plants grow and helping our soil build and improve. So when you look at a weed, you want to have that mind shift to that weed is there for a purpose. It's there for a reason. A lot of times that weed is telling you what the condition of your soil is, like it or not, number one. Number two, it's there to give your soil what it needs at this particular time until we until we improve it to the next state where you can grow what you want to grow. We'll talk a little bit more about that in other lessons as we go about succession and all that good stuff. But please understand that. And this is a high level training, so I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds, at least in this particular part of the presentation. But also feel free and start teeing up some of your questions as well as they come if you want to go deeper on that. I'll do that as much as possible. Next, nutrients and minerals. And some of the misconceptions there is that we feel like we have to get soil tests so we can add minerals and nutrients to our soil. And that's somewhat of a hustle from the regenerative ag mindset. Sure, that may be the case a little bit, but for the most part, everything you can ever need, your plants could ever need, is already right there existing in your soil right now as we speak. All that your plant needs is the right environment, the right soil environment, and for us to do certain things that we mimic nature to create. And we'll talk more about what that looks like. But your plant is going to, what's the word I'm looking for? Your plant is going to search and find everything it needs beneath its feet. If we create the system and we create the nutrients that are released in plant-ready form already in nature without us even being involved, guess what? You're going to have everything you need at less cost. But guess what? If you're buying, they're going to sell it to you. So again, I told you you're going to hear some stuff that you had never heard before. Part of that is what you just heard there. So we talk about composting, and we're going to get a little bit into that a little bit later. But composting, the myth is that composting is all the same. No, all compost isn't treated equal. So please understand that. If you smell a bad smell, if it doesn't smell like the forest floor, and that's probably something you want to do next time you're out walking, you see an area that looks like it's been untouched for years, go out there, dig your hand about 3 inches deep, smell it. That's what your soil is supposed to smell like. And we're going to share with you some ways to get it there. So composting is not created equal. That is, your soil is living. Well, another tip is if it's got steam coming off of it, it has not finished composting. Don't put that on your garden, because most likely you're going to kill something and you're wondering why. It's because that person who sold you that compost wasn't finished, who didn't know how to make compost or sold it to you before it was finished. Animal impact. This is, I believe, animals, for those of us who have livestock, animals are probably the best way to build your soil, in my personal opinion. So that's a part of regenerative agriculture too. Some of the myths out there is that you want to get rid of your animals because they're eating up your grass, or you're overgrazing. Typically, that's not the case. Animals typically can't overgraze. It's people who keep certain things on and do not give your land rest that creates overgrazing, not animals. Okay. So last thing is the mindset, the myth that people grow plants. People don't grow plants. Plants grow themselves. It's our job to create the environment, mimic nature, to allow whatever plants that we're trying to grow to thrive. All right. All right. I think that's done for the misconceptions and myths. So from a holistic perspective, it's essential that we learn, number one, that nature works in wholes. And really what this means is that what an ecosystem means is certain things impacts everything else. Okay. So everything that we do impacts what we're trying to do on our farm. And it's very important to understand that. Okay. And the other thing that's a key insight for every farmer should know, is that depending on their environment that they're trying to grow in, and how brittle it is. When we say brittle, that not only means rainfall, but that means moisture in the air. And how brittle that is does really matter as far as some of the frameworks you're given. A lot of times as farmers, we're told, we're led to believe, I won't say we're told, we're led to believe that one size fits all. Hey, it doesn't matter where you are, we're going to teach you the same lesson. You go out and apply it. And then we're wondering how come, our farmer 3 hours ago is having great success with it, and for us, not so much. A lot of times it's the environment we live in and the amount of rainwater and moisture we get out throughout the year and how we handle that. How do we put that into practice, which gets us to living organisms. Sometimes you can be in an environment that is very brittle. It's getting great rainfall. It's also very moist, like, somewhere like South Padre. However, the practices that we're implementing aren't working. We're thinking, oh, this should work great. But unfortunately, based on how much brittleness you have, you may not need as much living organisms or much animals on your field at a certain amount of time to get living organisms to create that moisture for you. It can work against you sometimes if you don't have a good idea of your brittleness, what your brittleness scale and how that works on your particular place, because that can be different. And it's up to us to really find out what that is, what that recipe is, based on the frameworks and practice we teach versus thinking one size fits all because we attended an agency meeting and that's what they said. Hey, do this. Okay, yeah, do that, but always monitor, always assess so you know how to adjust in your practices. And then another key insight based on the brittleness again is rest and recovery. So your land, it needs rest and recovery. How much? Really going to again depend on the brittleness and the living organisms that you use, whether you're using compost, liquid compost, or actual animals and livestock. So those are key insights. We can get deeper in the weeds on those things, but really the purpose of this workshop here is to get your mind going on some of the things that you should know from a high level. And we certainly, depending on how much you lean in, we'll lean in with you and sharing deeper on what some of these things mean, especially for some of y'all whose brain is probably, going 100 miles an hour. You're like, what in the heck is this guy talking about? Okay. So I do want, before we get into some of the some of the things you can do to get started, I do want to share a few of the most common missteps that we see. First is commitment to re-education. There's something about us farmers. We hit adulthood. Hey, we just want to do what we want to do, but we don't like to have to sit in a classroom and learn. I get that. So that's part of the reason why we created our teaching farm, and it's part of the reason why folks like Uche, Arlena, and Uriah were putting together, and other team members and many of our partners were putting together farmer-centric training, both online but also in person, that allows you to re-educate without feeling like you're sitting in a classroom or in a university, and get you back on your farm to implement. Okay, so, but first thing is, what we can't do is we can't get you committed. It's up to you to make that commitment, because if your head is spinning, we always tell people keep showing up. If you keep showing up, it's not going to spin as much. You're not going to feel like that rookie quarterback with those big defensive ends coming off the edge. After a while, the game is going to slow way down for you. Part of that is how we educate. Part of that is you going back and implementing certain things, which the other thing that we see, common mistake, is spending without a plan. A lot of times as farmers, we have a certain perception of what farming is, and we feel like we have to go out and conquer the land. And such went out and got a tractor, for 80,000 to 150,000, or got a loan for this or a high tunnel. And all those things are great, but if you try to keep up with the Joneses, and some of us on here know what I'm talking about, when it comes to farming, you're probably going to be done before you got finished, unless you just are swimming in money and cash and have stuff to throw away. So incurring expenses, especially startup costs, before really understanding, taking inventory of what you already have. And when I say inventory, it's not only your land that you have or the access to land, whether you rent it or own it or somewhere in between, but also, the equipment that you have on hand, and also the people assets, your family, your neighbors, organizations like ours that you can tap into, and their willingness to do technical assistance and help along the way are all key things before you go out. You run out and get all these things that you want, but you probably don't need right now because you're still learning what you want. So, the other thing I would say is just focusing on the wrong stuff. Part of it is trying to keep up with the Joneses, and my neighbor got this, so I want to get that. But also, it's focusing on such things as trying to suppress pests, or hey, I don't like these weeds or this thing growing. Just focus on what you control what you control. And what we try to do is focus on what you want, and we'll show you how to manage for that. Because in regenerative agriculture, typically, if you manage for what you want, those other things are going to take care of itself. And in many cases, they are beneficial. They're actually helping you, and you just don't realize it because you've been conditioned to believe that it's a bad thing. So be careful on that. That's a common misstep that we see. The last, but certainly not least, is going big too early. A lot of times, as farmers, we get excited about what we just learned, and we want to go out and replant or disc up, 100 acres or all of our land. And I recommend that you not do that. I recommend that you do what we call safe to fail trials. As you learn this, implement it. Again, figure out how it works on your place based on the framework that we taught it. And then over time, once you feel like you've mastered and got a good grasp of how that's working on your land, you can go bigger. The other thing I would suggest and recommend that goes in line with the safe to fail trials is not to try to mix. I've seen this happen a lot of times. People go, okay, well, this is how I was taught to do it, so I'm going to mix conventional practices with these regenerative practices when I'm doing my trials. I recommend that you not do that, because the problem is you really aren't going to know what's really working. You're going to think and then all of a sudden something doesn't work, and you're out telling people, hey, this regenerative ag stuff really doesn't work, when sure it does, but what you've done is kind of cut corners, or you've tried to mix in both practices and you don't really know what's working, and you lost patience and you went a different direction, which isn't going to help you anyway. Okay. So I think this is close to my last slide, and then we can jump into Q&A, but I did want to share some things, kind of some insights, a snapshot of what it looks like to start the journey. And one is you want to get your foundation of knowledge. Like I said earlier, you want to commit to learning this or not. If you're not committed, that's okay. I do encourage you, if you're not quite sure, dip your toes in, come to sign up for a few trainings, and really get the knowledge you need, because this is where everything is shifting to, whether you like it or not. That's where it's going right now, based on a number of things, which is a whole nother workshop, but get your foundation of knowledge, get re-educated, commit to it is what I encourage you to do. And then next is, as you learn things, practice and implement it, not on your whole farm or in your whole garden, but just pick a little plot that you want to test it and then see, sometimes you can see the difference and be patient. You can't rush nature. As I said before, what works for one farmer that might happen within months, it may take 2 or 3 growing seasons for you, depending on a number of things, including your climate that I talked about before, the brittleness of it, some of the practices that you're using, and how intensely you're implementing it. And if you're cutting corners, yeah, it's gonna take a little bit longer than it normally would because the soil doesn't know what direction to go. The soil is a living thing. It's sitting there going, wow, what do we want to do here? So just understand that. Um, I would say once you implement a few small trials, start taking inventory of your family and family members. And if you know someone should be in a meeting because you're eventually at some point going to have to answer to them, get them in that meeting up front, let them know from day one so you're not, because farming takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of investment. You don't want to start down a road that you can no longer finish because you were trying to avoid a conversation. So make sure you do that. When we talk about taking inventory, that also includes your personal finances, what that looks like, be real with it. We do have a training on that I think your Uche is going to be sharing with you, and then set your goals based on that. Now based on what you want to do, what your those behaviors and actions to get to where you want to go, and then kind of your vision, how you envision that lifestyle. So, last but not least, once you take inventory, set your goals, get it into practice, manage it, be a land steward, start monitoring, and we'll share with you how to monitor certain things. You don't have to have a microscope like I do. Like I said, I'm nerded out on the soil, as you heard. But there's things that we will teach you how to monitor your land above ground to tell you what's going on below ground. Okay, so there's ways to do that. And as an added service, depending on where you're at with our program, we also can put it under the microscope, which will definitely tell you where things are at. So manage, monitor, assess at the end of the year, rinse and repeat. What's working, what ain't. It's okay to step away something that you thought was going to be a great idea and it wasn't. But assess it, debrief, rinse and repeat. So that's pretty much it, y'all. I went a little fast on purpose because I was trying to hit my hit my timeline. But thank you very much. And back to you, Uche. I'm assuming you want the Q&A.
Oh, yeah. We're going to jump right into Q&A, y'all. Thank you so much, Phil, for that great presentation. If it felt high level for you, don't worry. We have multiple sessions and knowledge forums where we educate and talk about the different segments of this education. And like Phil said, this is very high level. And but if you gain one thing from it, a good soil produces good crops. That is something that we preach, something that is so important. If you see weeds, that means there's something wrong with your soil. So that weed is probably fixing your soil. But I do have a question. And if you have a question on your end or our guest, feel free to drop it in the chat or in the Q&A, and I'm sure Phil will be able to answer it. But my question for you is, what is one myth in regenerative ag? If this is one myth, you just say, you know what, with the snap, like Thanos, snap of a finger, it's gone, it's disappeared. What's one myth you would like to get removed from your regenerative agriculture?
It would probably be the weeds thing. The propaganda, as I said before, if you're buying, they're selling, and some of the propaganda behind what a weed is to me just way out of whack. And part of it is our lack of knowledge on regenerative agriculture and how nature really works. So because of that, the first thing I hear from farmers, oh, I don't want any weeds. A lot of times that thing they're calling a weed is helping their soil, number one. Number two, and I think I had a picture of us out in the field And I remember a farmer asking, well, why you got all these weeds out here? And farmer said, look at my sheep. And he was like, yeah. He said, yeah, those sheep are eating that thing that you call my weeds, and they're like 20% have more nutrient density in it than the normal grass that they're selling you at the feed store. They're telling you to grow. So my sheep are eating it. It's costing me less money, and guess what? They're pooping and growing more of it. So I don't have to spend money on seed. I don't have to spend and this actually happened right after a flood. He said, and you notice every other field out there has water sitting on it. You feel that sponge? And we start walking around like, yeah, that sponge, that water is being retained because of the practices I use. So they're sitting there growing these things that you're calling weeds because that rainwater is sitting in the soil where it should be versus on top of it because I built it. So that's what I would say. So going back to your question, I would probably say weeds is the biggest thing, the biggest hustle. I know Uriah talks about it all the time when he talks about keeping growing roots in the soil. And I'm guilty of it too. I've been mentally conditioned that if I see something that looks in my mind like a weed to pull it. But what I started doing instead of pulling it, I just cut the weed. I just cut what I was calling a weed down around the vegetables if I'm trying to grow collards or whatever, versus pulling it out because I'm keeping good roots in there, which if you understand how nature works, biodiversity builds, that's good for your land because it builds stability with the microbes that are in your soil. But we're taught differently. So what are we doing? We're running out getting herbicides and everything else. We're running out disking up the very soil that just grew our crop. And we're undoing all the goodness because in our mind, we're thinking we're thinking weeds, weeds, weeds. And we don't want this to be invasive to to what we're trying to grow. And to me, that just once you learn how regenerative agriculture works, it makes all the sense in the world. But if you don't know how to mimic nature, then you're gonna probably go out and try to buy herbicides and be totally focused on something you should be focused on.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Phil. We got questions in the chat. Oh,
And Arlene, I see that look on your face. You be nice.
I know.
You be nice.
Arlene's ready, but the chat is buzzing. Thanks, chat. See, I'm trying to be like I Show Speed. I've been watching like these streamers lately, learning from them. Okay, Crystal said, thanks, P. Wade. Love the presentation. Thank you, Crystal. All right, our first question is from Paul Beatty. The question is, what would you think is a realistic time frame to improve a large plot? These honey locusts and other stuff is taking up so much of my time. And that's a real question. That's a true question.
Okay, so repeat it. I think I missed the first part.
What would you think is a realistic time frame to improve a large plot?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and the good news is whether you have a large plot, or a small plot, when I say large, hundreds of acres, or a small plot, meaning you got a small garden out back or a couple raised beds, whatever. Principles for the most part are the same when it comes to regenerative ag. So my answer to you is going to be one you don't like. I had to learn it early because I was asking the same one. Arlena just mouthed it. What is it, Arlena?
It depends.
Yes, it depends. It depends on some of the things I shared with you in the 4 insights. It depends on your bioregion that you live in, which is part of some of the things that were on the 4 insights. It depends on how your resources that you have on hand and that you will have once you are able to implement it on a small scale and then grow it. Now, of course, as I said, the principles work the same, But guess what? If you got 100 acres that you have to now grow into, or 500 acres or 1,000 acres versus a small plot in your backyard, totally different. So again, and I'll let Arlena, because she got her hand up, go. But again, it really just depends. And we could talk if that feels like that wasn't a good enough answer. It's a true answer, to be honest with you. Because it really depends on your situation, where your location is, what you're trying, even what you're trying to grow, and what are some of the main things you're growing, whether it's just improving your grassland for your livestock, or you're looking to grow row crops or things like that. So
Yes,
that's my answer to you, but I would say keep tuning in. What's going on, Arlena?
I was going to reiterate a point that you made in your presentation for Paul, is to manage for what you want. Don't let the honey locust suck up all your time.
Yes.
They're a distraction. They are telling you that you need to do something to the land, but if whatever crop or animal or whatever that you're trying to manage, I know this sounds crazy, but I want you to ignore the honey locust and focus on what you want in that space. The honey locust is distracting you. So there's something that you need to augment in your soil. You need to build that crop. Maybe you need a cover crop. Whatever your end result, your end goal is, focus on that. And while you're doing that, the honey locust is probably going to go away. And I am going to tell you from experience and this just data overall that you really can't expect change for a full year. You need a rotation of seasons. So you should see change if you're doing the practices correctly from spring to spring. You can't expect to see the change going from spring into the fall, because it's a different season. The land is going to respond differently. But when that spring comes back, you should see some change in what your practices were. So that's a good gauge in my opinion. Now, also, the environment is going to change, the weather is going to change, but your land is going to change based on your management. And you may find, if whatever that crop is that you're developing, you find the nutrients for that crop or for that animal, the honey locust is going to disappear.
I agree. And to piggyback off of that, if you're, depending on what you're trying to grow in your bioregion, you may be in South Padre. I doubt that you are that South, but I'm just using that as an example. It could happen in the same year. It could happen in the next season. It's probably not going to happen right away, because, nature has its processes, but there are climates where things break down and recover faster than others. But to Arlena's point, it depends on what you're trying to grow and all those other things involved with it. What happens, farmers get impatient, because that's what we're trained that, hey, there's a silver bullet to everything we're trying to do. So we get impatient. And when something's new, human nature is to go back to what you know. And then all of a sudden, this regenerative ag thing doesn't work. So there is some patience involved. I will share my screen just to kind of give an idea based on that question, just so you can see kind of what Arlena was speaking to. And just imagine this being infested with locusts. So you can see my screen there, and it's just a small plot. This is just, but it doesn't matter. It's a small raised bed, and as you can see, most people will call those weeds, right? If we're being honest, that's what we're calling them, as weeds. And I had some collard greens in there, and yeah, going from a conventional farmer to starting to put things into practice and implement, I was getting frustrated, because it's like this was last year. I'm like, what's going on? I need to see some results. And here's what it looks like this year. All right. So as you can see, and this is, and my point is, imagine, that there was grasshoppers, locusts in there as well. That was your problem, but they're not in here now. And the reason being is I had to build that soil up. I had to be patient with it. It didn't happen. It didn't pop. It didn't pop last spring. It didn't pop in the summer. It didn't pop right in the fall. Now it is. It took a full, as Arlena said, it took a full year for me to build this soil. But guess what? Now I'm planting kale in there and some other. I think I watched one of Uriah's videos and popped some onions in there and things like that. So to the point, small trials are your friend. Small space trials are your friend. If you go big, go for it. If you got the money to do it, I suggest you master some of the things that we will share with you in some of these upcoming trainings if you commit to it. And I think you'll get the results.
Thank you, PUA. Thank you, Elena. Oh, all right. The chat is buzzing, so I'm gonna go through and keep sharing some of the comments. Crystal has a comment. She says, "As someone who has gardened and farmed in desert environments, my favorite bit of knowledge I learned was, if it's green, let it grow." One of my favorite farming quotes and methods. And like you said, Phil, like you said, Elena, she's doing just that. So great job, Crystal. Thank you so much for sharing.
I'll piggyback off of that. We're getting ahead of ourselves because that's another training, really mimicking nature and understanding how nature works. But what is it, Krista? Is that it? So one
Crystal.
of the Crystal. So what Crystal is really saying is, as you saw in one of my things, the good news in that photo I just shared with you, and the reason I don't pull weeds anymore, I keep them there, is just that they act as solar panels for photosynthesis to pull the sun into the soil. So, and I won't go any deeper than that, but that's really a key to it. That's why I start taking scissors and because at some point, if it was getting the what I was calling weeds, the unwanted plants were getting too high. I didn't want the sun to block what I was really trying to grow. So I would, instead of pulling them out, because I still wanted greenery around the base of them to be collected and stored in the soil, I instead of pulling those weeds, I just cut them down to the ground and used it as mulch. And that's what you saw in that last picture is that's what I did all year long, using the basis, because I didn't want to bring stuff to y'all based on a book that I read or something someone told you. I want to see it for myself before, we bring it to y'all. And if we don't know it, the good news is we have a whole network of farmers that we can tap into, because if we're being honest, we don't cover every aspect of farming. We just do certain things. But if we don't know, we'll get that other person in front of you.
Awesome. Okay, we got some more. Paul asked, do you ever talk about pond management?
Pond management? No, I don't. I know a big hot topic right now is water. But yeah, that's beyond my expertise. But hey, if that's something you want to know, I think we have a few. I won't call their names out, but we got a few folks from places like the NRCS and some of our partners that could possibly assist you on that. So reach out to us. Uche will give you some contact info towards the end.
Yes, Paul, I will definitely share contact info to reach out to us. Another question from Crystal. She says, how do you feel about growing clover to keep down weed overgrowth and weed overgrowth around things like arugula and more delicate salad greens?
I love it. I love it because it's biodiversity. You're keeping plant roots in the ground. Clovers tend to have a broader green leaf that is now collecting. So I love everything about it. I saw Arlena shaking her head, so I'll let you elaborate on that too, Arlena, what you like about that.
Clover it's a conservative plant. It is actually designed. There was actually some in Phil's bed. There was some clover popping in there. It is putting roots in the soil. It's recycling nutrients and giving it rest. It's a cover crop. So if you start working with the NRCS, Regenerative Ag, any bare land, they want you to cover that land and let that soil exercise nutrients and protect it. And clover is a very, very, very good one. It's also nutritious for any animals on the land. It's just beneficial all around. The worms love it. It covers the soil. So that's excellent. And I know we get used to single plants, single rows, real clean and manicured around it. So clove may not be comfortable for some people to see all that growth around your plants, but it's doing its job. That's a very good cover crop.
And
I was actually writing to Paul. I'm gonna go ahead and say this real quick. I can tell you one thing, Paul. Don't be so quick to adjust the pond. Um, don't be so quick to adjust the pond for your comfort. So I can tell you that we have a tendency to want to kill the snakes, get rid of this that's growing around it. As long as it's not interfering with your family and your children and your livestock, like a rattlesnake, you'll get rid of that. But don't allow that natural ecosystem to evolve on its own. Don't spray, don't treat, don't do things to the pond. It will cause you a lot of trouble later. So I found that to be a real hard one for people to tolerate as well. If it's snakes, put barriers between the house and the snakes. If you got ducks and geese, manage for what you want. Leave them alone. The ducks and geese gonna handle the snakes. You see what I'm saying? You have a little paddle boat and they get caught up in the rudder. Maybe don't use the paddle boat in that area of the pond. Don't manipulate the pond too much. When we go against nature, she's going to return back with a vengeance and give you even more of a problem that you started with.
Absolutely. Everything we do, nature works in wholes. Everything we do on our farm impacts something else, good, bad, and different. It's the real deal. So, and that's why you hear us preaching, hey, we want every farmer, regardless if you get into regenerative ag or not, is to learn how nature works. And for those who move forward, regenerative ag, we're going to share with you some of the different tools and ways to monitor once you implement those tools to manage for what you want. But the key is before you just jump into, so many of us, and we've done it too. I told you our family story. We just jump in because the guy at the barber shop, hey, he's been farming for years, so he must be right. And the reality is most people don't know the ins and outs of really how to farm the way our ancestors did, the way since 1970, since 70 years ago after World War II, ushered in, the need to feed a booming society. I don't know if they stumbled onto it or not, but they learned that some of the chemicals that were being used in warfare could help speed up nature. And y'all know what happens when we try to speed up nature. Usually not a good thing. So anyway, that's it. I know Arlena's talking about the hog problem. Same thing, What happens when you poison those hogs and they're wild hogs? They're not just staying on your land. Guess what? They're going to other people's land. And what does every living creature pretty much do? They poop. I got worms that I'm using for my soil. They poop. So when they're pooping, they're leaving that, certain things that goes into your soil, into the aquifers, into the water system, all because somebody felt like it was a pest. And not saying not to do that. I'm just saying know that there's impacts on everything that we do. And usually when there's an infestation of one thing, that means we got rid of something else that was that thing's predator that goes against the nature. And when we go against nature, just like what you see happen with the buffaloes, you get what you get when it comes to climate, when it comes to our soil and all that good stuff. What's going on, Mr. Uriah?
Yes.
Hey, so this is a wonderful class, and I just had a question, like for how do we? First of all, I wanted to get a real clear definition for the word regenerative, like make it plain so that you've been doing it all night, but like somebody says that doesn't apply to me because I have a small garden or I'm in an urban setting. Like how does that apply to them? And then how can a small gardener or somebody who has an urban farm, how can you apply regenerative agriculture principles to that site?
All right, so you throwing haymakers at me, man. That's okay. I got you. I got you. So to answer the first part of your question, I think it's very important to know there's a difference between the word sustainable and the word regenerative. Sustainable says, oh shoot, we're going to run out of topsoil if we keep doing things the way we're doing. We're mining for food. We're going to run out of food. And then what? So let's stop, just like you see, when they see some animal going extinct, they want to put some guardrails up to slow that down or stop it. That's called sustainable. And that's a word that's used a lot of times. Regenerative means really allowing nature to do what it does, and you take care of the soil, it's going to take care of you. Not just one time, not just a couple times, you build it up, and that's what we're talking about. You start now, especially some of you who are talking about starting farming. The first thing, and Arlena hears me tell even urban farmers do this. First thing you want to do, maybe you don't have animals on your land. Start building real bio complete compost, compost that has the right biology in it. And then when you learn how to do that, rinse and repeat, do it again and again and again. That's what I would be doing for the next 2 years if I'm about to start out, is building my soil, because your soil is your manufacturing factory for your plants. Even if you plan on being cattlemen like we were trying to be, our cattle got to eat, and guess what? If we don't have to feed them, because like the guy we went out to that I talked about earlier, nature's taking care of it for you already, and hey, the fact that you got animals out there, the system is already helping its own self regenerate. What more can you want? But guess what? Guess what? They don't want you to know what I just shared with you over the last 45 minutes. You're right. Tell me why they don't want us to know that.
Wow. So they can still, like, I guess, continue to feed us, and I guess we'll still be in the dark, and they'll still be.
So they can sell you everything that you think you need for farming. In reality, the way we teach, and again, we'll get there, we try to, that's why we say take inventory, because if you got a fallen tree, we could use that. We could turn that into fertilizer over and over again, fertilizer that's regenerating your soil, not giving you just enough so you can get through today's crop, but then you need to go back, do it all over again, next time. There's going to be a period, just like Arlena said, where you have to build it up. And maybe you even need to turn over the soil the first time. But when your greens are looking like my greens are looking, I don't want to cut into that. I don't want to turn that soil over, because now I'm cutting into the living being called soil that is producing it. Why would I tear my factory down? So that goes back to answering your question. That's what regenerative is. And that can happen whether you are growing in a small garden, like which I just showed you, which is in my backyard. We went through the freeze, so I don't know if it's quite looking that way now. That picture was taken this past weekend. But or you're growing acres and acres of row crops and things like that. Whatever that is, it works the same way, in my opinion. The framework works the same way. The costs and even the costs may be different if you really master this thing and you have the space and the resources and learn how to, create things naturally, whether it's your inventory includes land and everything that comes with land, or you might even have livestock and you got poop and manure. That's even better. We can even show you how that works. But everything goes towards your bottom line. The thing we haven't even talked about right now is what I shared before, the rainfall, and building this thing up to capture your rainfall. First thing we hear from most farmers, I got to get irrigation. Really? Do you, do you really need irrigation? You might, you might, based on where you live and what you're trying to grow, all that stuff, but maybe not. The picture that you saw there was about June, so it hadn't got hot, hot, hot. I need to probably go out and visit with my man Jonathan and see what that looks like in mid-August and go from there. But based on what everybody else, because it was a heavy rain the day before, based on what everybody else's yard was covered, we couldn't even see crops. It was covered in water. His was in there, so I know that he was able to retain that water for a much long time. And that's because he took the time to build his soil and make it regenerative.
Awesome, awesome. Wow, thank y'all so much for the wealth of information, y'all. Okay, I have a question, and I know we're 15 minutes in, close to the end, but I have one question, and I'm sure it's bugging everyone's mind, right? How do you recover when a regenerative experiment fails? Can't even fail, but how do you recover when a regenerative experiment fails?
So hopefully, because to me, there's no failure. It's just learning, number one. So hopefully you are assessing and monitoring, do some of, and we'll teach that stuff, because that's a big, and thanks for asking the question, because that's a big part of it. Everything that you implement is usually, and sometimes you think it failed, then you walk out one day, you're like, what's going on? You just lost patience. It didn't fail. You just lost patience. But like I said before, if you're mimicking nature, it's probably going to be okay. But what you have to do and the level and the measure that you have to do, whatever your tools you're using or practices you're using, are going to differ based on your location, what you're trying to grow. So go back again. But to me, there's no failures. That's why it's called safe to fail trial, because you're learning, okay, that didn't work, and that's happened to me with certain things, usually with stuff like creating compost and putting it under the microscope and going, okay, that doesn't have a lot of biology, and learning, sometimes it's because I left town for a week and I didn't spray. It just dried out, or because the sun, it was hot and high in the sky. Everything is a learning experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. Thank you. Okay, we are less than 15 minutes to the end. If you have any questions, please throw them in the chat. We'll try to answer, but we want to share some upcoming events that are coming up in our neck of the woods that we would love for you all to participate in. I saw Uriah on. I hope he's still here, but if he's here, there's Uriah. Hello, sir. We have an upcoming event that we're very excited to share with everyone. If you are located near or within the San Antonio area, Uriah, would you want to share with our guests your upcoming event?
Oh yeah, sure. Hey, Ochi, are you able to put the flyer up on the screen?
Yes, sir. I can. Just, keep talking. I'm just gonna pop it up real quick. Keep
Okay.
talking.
So what we're doing, collaboration, Let's Grow and Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers community-based organization. We are presenting a four-day class on basic agriculture. And so, we do the Tuesday seeds. I do like little short snippets of agricultural principles. But this class is actually a hands-on intensive training where you will learn like just the principles that we need to that we really need to embrace and understand. I've grown in Boston, Massachusetts. I've grown in Atlanta, Georgia, and then I've also grown in Texas, mid Texas. And so it's all different types. And each time I went there, these different locations, I had to embrace the agriculture that was there and the seasons and the weather types, all drastically different. And so what I'm finding out, but the principles all remain the same. So what we do is we actually teach these principles in this class. There's going to be hands-on, things that we do. exercises, but also too, you're going to get an understanding. You hear words tossed around, but nobody's ever really defined them. You have an understanding. When you walk out of this class, you're going to be empowered to grow your own food. You're going to say, like, I think I can do this. And most of the people on this class tonight are probably already doing different things. This is for those who are really beginners, and also if you had some practice and maybe it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to turn out, this would be a great class for you.
Awesome. So everyone, I am going to drop in the chat the link to it. Feel free to, let me go in there. There we go. Yes. Feel free to visit the website, and it's going to be on our TSFRCBO.org/Let's Grow. So this is an opportunity, and as Ryan said, is an in-person class. So we are teaching, and well, Uriah's teaching. I'm not teaching. Uriah's teaching. I'll be recording. I'll be recording the event. So attendees who attend, this will be an opportunity where we have 4 Saturdays of great knowledge being shared by Uriah. You're going to get everything from the basics to the high level to the intense to the nitty gritty. He's going to share some of his tips and tricks to urban gardening. If you've seen our latest video, like you see Uriah's garden. Uriah has a beautiful garden. It makes all of us feel like we're not doing enough. But that's the wealth of knowledge, because he's someone that has done it, practiced it, and he is excelling at it. Even with this freeze, he's still excelling. I don't know how, but he does an amazing job. He knows all about it, how to protect it, and what. Yes, sir.
And Uche, I do want to say, and still learning.
I'm still learning.
This agriculture is past us finding out. And but there's certain principles that remain the same regardless of where you are. And we just have to embrace it. These are some principles that we lost over time. And now we need to get them back because our survival depends upon it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And like you said, our survival depends on it. So check out the website. We have time to register. Our first class begins on the 28th of February. We are ending Black History Month by learning about farming and gardening and growing our own food. So that is the goal for 2026 for all and everyone who's a part of our organization. The last thing I'd like to share with you all is, for everyone that is attending, we have a special gift for y'all. So we will be launching the Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers Community-Based Organization Academy. We are launching this. We've been building this for a year now. We've been nurturing, building. Everyone within the team here has contributed to making sure this academy is a success. And because you all are attendees, we are going to be giving you all early access to this academy. We're excited for it. We hope you're very as excited as we are. So if you haven't already, we would love for each and every one of you to fill out our small farmer intake form. If you already have, you're in it. And you're going to get an email on Friday morning. So if you have friends, families, people that you know, tell them to go fill out the small farmer intake form. And I'm going to drop that link in the chat as well for you to share with whomever you want to be a part of this inaugural launch of our academy, because I call it inaugural. I've been excited about it for a few months now. I know Arlena is, I know Raya is, but they are all going to be part of it. And the beautiful thing about this academy is going to be at our online learning space, where you can see everyone here will be able to assist you throughout the process of learning. If you get stuck somewhere, you have our mentors like Arlena, Raya, P. Wade, and some of our other mentors that are not here and present in the call, who can assist you through your educational journey. And this is going to be a free early access for you all. So we're very excited because you guys have supported us. We wanted to give it back this way. So on Friday morning, the email will go out. We encourage everyone, if you have not filled out the small farmer intake form, do so. You don't have to be a farmer. You can be starting off. You can be something you're aspiring to do. But that's the point. We want to get you all ready, because when you want to start your regenerative ag journey, there's certain things that you need to have under your belt. One of the things, understanding what it is to be a regenerative ag farmer, like we learned today. Another thing is about finances. Another thing is about inventory control. We might neglect this other things, but as as we all like to say, we're not just businessmen or businesswomen. We are business men and women, and we are about our business. And it's so important that we take control of it, whether it is just the farming aspect, which we all enjoy, or some of the boring things like paperwork and filing with NRCS and making sure we have the right farm numbers and making sure that we have the right inventory. These are so important. But that's why we are starting this academy, and we would love for you all to join us on this journey. This is going to be pilot program, so fill out the intake form. Friday morning is an email is going to go out. If someone misses the cutoff is 12 midnight on Thursday. I'll say that now, 12 midnight on Thursday. If you sign up after that, you missed the early access. I'm sorry. We have to be fair to all the individuals who came in already. But we are going to send an email out. You'll probably see it come from me, and it's going to share with you a link for you to sign up, register. I'll be checking every registration to make sure you all signed up beforehand. Anyone that signs up afterward, I'm just going to deny that request. I'm just say sorry, you don't have it, but that's okay. There's going to be an opportunity in the future for those who sign up afterwards to be a part of this. But for now, we want to open up this early access to you all who have been loyal, who have participated, who have joined us through each and every one of our journeys with this knowledge forum and across all our social platforms. So be on the lookout on Tuesday. We're going to send that out. I'm excited for you all to experience this. And if you see any bugs, let us know. We love to we would love to hear from you and your feedback, and of course grow the platform as it should, because that is the most important part, is growing it and making sure that you all have a very good experience learning through this journey with us. All right. Oh,
Yep, you got a
Crystal.
question.
Yes, we have a question. It said, is the newsletter the same as the one I'm already getting? Yes, the newsletter is the same as you're already getting, but this other email is not the newsletter. This is separate from that. Newsletter is great. We're so excited that you're a part of our newsletter. If you're already receiving our newsletter, awesome, 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 awesome. But if you have not filled out the small farmer intake form, you might miss out on the academy. So, because the newsletter, when you sign up for our newsletter, you get our weekly newsletter, which has all the tips, tricks, information, updates, grants, applications to whatever, or attend our upcoming events. But the small farm intake form is for our soul to profit cohort. And these are our core group of farmers who are ready to learn. If you're in the knowledge forum, you're already ready to learn, but we would love to at least welcome you formally into our cohort that way. And it's free to register. We're not charging y'all yet. I'm just kidding. We're not charging y'all. But definitely with the early access, you get access to some of that educational programs that we'll be releasing. And we're excited for you to join us in this journey. Awesome. Oh, you don't? Yeah, Crystal, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Crystal. You will not double subscribe at all. If you're already subscribed, it's only going to come to you once. And if it's twice, the system usually fixes it. So you'll be okay. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. All right. Any comments, suggestions, Phil, Uriah, Elena? No?
No. Did I miss anything? I didn't go back through. I didn't see well, I think there may have been a comment from a cattle person, but I don't think there was any. I don't think we missed any questions.
Yes, so with the cattle, she's you have some notes on her, and you will continue to learn about managing your cattle and your livestock using regenerative ag practices. So that's a definitely part of the learning portal. Someone asked if it was only for Texas, the learning portal.
No, no, it's not only for Texas. This is for anyone who has access to internet and a computer. That's it's open to every single person wherever you're located. It is open. Of course, the practices you implement on your farm will differ from someone else, but we expect and hope that you learn some of the information that will be presented to you, and then you apply it adequately to your farming slash livestock practice moving forward. So that's the goal. All right.
I do want to make a quick comment and we will go. Arlisha made the comment. She's sounds like she is in West Texas. Going back to some of the things I shared in West Texas, because of the climate, like I talked about before, and this is a good example. The nutrients that exist in those pastures once you build them are typically have more nutrients because plants are very adaptable, and because you get less rainfall, they adapt to the climate. So plants are very resilient. You know, as Uriah will say, sometimes they won't even grow in certain places, but what does grow is going to have much more nutrient content in it because of the amount that once they graze on it, they're going to need more nutrient content than something that gets regular rainfall, like over in Dallas or Houston, whatnot. So know that, very important. That's why a lot of times you get cattle that's from East Texas that goes to West Texas. It does better when you take cattle from West Texas and bring it to East Texas. It has to get acclimated. It doesn't do as good because what they're grazing on isn't as nutrient dense. So anyway, I'll share that with you. We're over time, so I'm gonna stop there and stop nerding out.
Yeah, that's another class. That is another class, y'all. That's another class. Well, we thank y'all so much for participating. We thank you so much for attending. It is 7:31. We are 1 minute past our time, and we want to be respectful of everyone's time. So thank you for your support. And as we always say, be the exception. Good night.